the dress, the villain parts, the shuck and jive scripts. For 20 years, Katt Williams claims he said no to every role that crossed his line. A line drawn in Cincinnati at 13 years old. It wasn't just a preference, it was a survival strategy for a man who knew he was the smartest person in any room he entered. He watched smaller talents pass him on the ladder, refusing to pay the Hollywood tax. He turned down $50 million, 4 separate times. To the industry, he was self-destructive. To his fans, he was the only one telling the truth. Here is the list, the receipts, and the total price he paid. It started with a choice to walk away from life-changing money to protect a legacy that hadn't even been fully built yet. Most people see the jewelry and the cars, but they miss the math behind them. This is the story of the man who refused to sell out and won the ultimate long game. Before the pimp persona and the arenas, Michael Williams was a certified child prodigy. Reading fluently at 3, he was consuming literature that would challenge most adults. His father, a former Black Panther, instilled a rigorous intellectual discipline that would later become his greatest weapon. He mastered French and Haitian Creole while traveling on mission trips with his parents. The intellect that defines his comedy today was forged in those early years of intense, self-directed study. He wasn't just a funny kid. He was a polymath who saw the world as a system to be understood. But brilliance often brings friction. At 13, Micah legally emancipated himself. He walked away from his home in Cincinnati with nothing but his mind and a standard he refused to lower. He was a man-child entering a world that had no place for an uncompromising teenager. He landed in Florida. For the next few years, survival was the only goal. He was homeless, sleeping in parks by night, living in a state of hyper-awareness that would later become his comedic edge. This period of poverty was a reconnaissance mission into the reality of the streets he would later satirize. Public libraries became his school. While other kids were in classrooms, Katt was self-educating, reading everything from Nietzsche to quantum physics. He was building a mental catalog to dismantle the industry. He once said he spent his days in the library because it was the only place that was free. His entry into comedy was pure accident. He snuck into a club underage, took the mic on a dare, and realized that the stage was the only place where his mind was truly free. The audience was his first lab, and he was the scientist. He realized quickly that if he could control the room, he could control his destiny. He spent years honing his craft in the white rooms and the urban circuits of Florida. He was a high-octane force who could outthink any audience and outwork any comic on the bill. He was known for doing 5 sets a night, sharpening the Katt persona until it was a razor-sharp edge. By the late 90s, he was Katt in a Hat, a recurring face on BET's Comic View, building a massive underground following that Hollywood couldn't ignore. His pimp persona was born here, as a sharp social satire that used the language of the streets to deliver high-level intellectual critiques. Then came 2002, Friday After Next. The role of Money Mike was supposed to be a background character, a bum in a shopping center. But Katt saw a hole in the script and filled it with genius. He was a first-time film actor who already knew he was a star. The original script included a scene where Money Mike was sexually assaulted in a bathroom. Katt refused. He stood his ground with Ice Cube and the producers, arguing that rape is never funny. He fought for the character's soul and won. A legend was born in that bathroom scene rejection. He transformed Money Mike into a cultural icon through pure improvisation. Every line that fans quote today was Katt working off script. It was his first major taste of creative integrity, winning against studio momentum. But his victory flagged him as difficult, a label that would define the next decade. But success brought industry friction. Katt alleges that around this time, his best material was being taken by peers. He wasn't just losing roles. He felt he was losing his intellectual property to a system that protected the kings of comedy while marginalizing the newcomers who actually wrote the jokes. He claimed Cedric stole his car driving bit for the original kings of comedy. He also targeted Steve Harvey, alleging Harvey's sitcom was a direct theft of Mark Curry's Hangin' with Mr. Cooper. To Katt, These weren't just feuds. They were evidence of a systemic rot at the top of the industry. Between 2003 and 2008, Katt claims he turned down $50 million across 4 separate deals. These weren't just jobs. They were invitations into a system he felt was designed to humiliate and control him. He said no when everyone else was saying yes, knowing the price he would pay. The dress became his ultimate line in the sand. He saw it as a symbolic requirement for black comedians to achieve blockbuster fame. He refused to wear it for Big Mama's house, and the industry gatekeepers slammed the doors. He watched other comics take those roles and the $100 million paydays that followed. Turning down that money earned him a permanent label, difficult. His film offers dried up. He was uninvited from the parties and the awards shows, but for Katt, it was the only way to keep his soul. He chose the road over the red carpet, betting everything on the long-term loyalty of his fans. To understand Katt's current empire, you have to look at the math of the long game. While Hollywood was trying to bury him, Katt was building a kingdom that no studio could touch. He was about to change the rules of ownership forever. The price of no was about to become his greatest asset. To avoid the gatekeepers, Katt shifted his strategy to total independence. He began self-financing his specials, The Pimp Chronicles, American Hustle, It's Pimpin' Pimpin'. He owned the masters, the IP, and most importantly, the direct relationship with his audience. He became his own studio and promoter. The strategy worked. He was packing arenas nationwide while his critics were still waiting for green lights. He proved he didn't need Hollywood permission to reach the masses. He was already their king. He was making more money on the road than most actors were making on sets, and he owned every cent of it. Katt alleges a deeper pattern of gatekeeping. He spoke of Diddy, Weinstein, and the Illuminati deals years before the headlines caught up. He claimed the price of entry into the A-list was more than just talent. It was a sacrifice of dignity that he was never willing to make. He was a whistleblower in a silk suit. The 2010s were turbulent. Legal troubles and public outbursts were used by the media to frame him as finished. The industry was happy to watch him fade, believing his choice of integrity had finally failed. They confused his silence for defeat, but Katt was just waiting for the right moment to strike back. Then Donald Glover called. The Alligator Man episode of Atlanta showcased a different Katt, vulnerable, weary, and completely undeniable. It reminded the world that beneath the noise was a world-class actor. Uncle Willie wasn't just a character. He was a reflection of the wisdom Katt had gained from 2 decades in the wilderness. In 2018, the industry finally had to acknowledge him. Katt won the Emmy, beating out the biggest names in television. It was the first sign that his long-game strategy of no was starting to pay off. He didn't have to change. The world finally caught up to his value and his uncompromising standards. January 2024, the interview that changed everything. Katt didn't just vent. He delivered a systematic deconstruction of 20 years of industry mechanics. 90 million views later, the cultural conversation had shifted. People weren't talking about his troubles anymore. They were talking about his receipts. His claims began to look prophetic. As news broke about the very figures he named in that 3-hour marathon, Katt's receipts transitioned from controversy to history. He was the man who had been telling the truth the whole time, and the world was finally ready to listen. His vindication was absolute. Today, Katt Williams is a case study in the power of no. He proved that integrity isn't just a moral choice. It's a high-stakes business strategy that preserves the legend long after the money fades. He owns his arenas, his masters, and most importantly, his truth. He is the proof you can win without losing yourself. Would you turn down life-changing money over principle? Be honest in the comments below. Subscribe to Katt Williams, The Untold Stories, for more investigative deep dives into the truth behind the fame. We'll see you in the next chapter of The Untold. Stay real. The desk Katt spoke of wasn't just a metaphor. He listed the scripts Kevin Hart took: Soul Plane, Paper Soldiers, roles Katt had already turned down. Then there was the Fast and Furious Tej Parker role. Katt refused to cut his hair for a 20-movie deal. He watched Ludacris take the role and the billions that followed. But Katt chose ownership. He chose his fans. He chose Dave Chappelle's path, walking away from the fire to keep the spark. Today, he owns his arenas, his masters, and his truth. The $50 million he turned down was just the entrance fee to a kingdom he now rules on his own terms. This is Katt Williams, the untold story. Final, uncompromising, and absolutely real, he is the master of his own fate.